Today's episode is brought to you by Squarespace. Hey friends, welcome back to Andrew Good Camera. Unfortunately, I've been really sick lately and I'm not up to being in front of the camera, but I do have something I'm really excited to share with you. I've been going through my photography course that I used to sell on the channel and making some of the highlights freely available to all of you. And I really feel like today's highlight is a golden nugget for any of you who have ever felt anxiety when it comes to photography. Now, this anxiety can come in many forms, but in my experience in teaching photography, it comes out mostly in critique and judgment that we pile on ourselves. Sometimes we're afraid to even take the camera off the shelf because of the fear of failure that we feel. We've already decided that our work won't be as good as X or Y photographers, and we've already convinced ourselves that we're not real quote-unquote photographers. So we're always waiting for that perfect time to get the camera out, which never really happens. All this rather than doing what it takes to make photography become second nature, which is to have our camera with us always and be able to muscle past the anxiety that we feel when we take it out. So today I have a tip that I think will help, but before we dive into this lesson, a word from our sponsor, Squarespace. As you guys probably know, I've used Squarespace for almost 20 years for dozens of sites, both for me and clients that I've worked with. But one of the oldest websites is, of course, the website I created for Danae and I and our photography and YouTube channel almost a decade ago. And this website has gone through lots of iterations, but you'll notice it's a bit dated as Danae no longer does photography on YouTube here with me. So it's just me these days on the tubes, which is fine. Danae's fine. Don't worry about her. We're doing fine. But this website is not doing fine. So you can see how easy it is, though, to fix all that. As I update the domain to goodcamera.net, which I previously purchased, and then very easily update both the title and logo of the website. I also need to temporarily hide my workshops page. While that also undergoes some work, Squarespace makes it easy to just disable that page so I don't have to lose that page, and then I can re-enable it later when and if I have a new workshop coming out in the future, maybe, probably. And heading over to the About page, you can see how dead simple it is to update content, drag and drop stuff around, and just massage it till I'm happy with it. And now you can see just after a few minutes, we have a rebrand. So as you can see, Squarespace made this easy and I'm good to go for another 10 years. If you'd like to give Squarespace a try, head on over to squarespace.com/AndrewGood. And when you're ready to purchase, use the discount code AndrewGood for 10% off. A lot of you, when you hear all this, it's overwhelming. It's because I just criticized a bunch of street photography work and I showed you some amazing work. And you're somewhere here in the middle thinking, I can't produce work like that, and this is going to bring all this judgment to my work, and that's a negative thing. You're going to push away or resist that. So the thing I want to say is that, and you'll say, but as a result, you'll often say, I photograph for myself. An example of someone who did that, by the way, was Vivian Maier. If you don't know who she is, definitely worth a look up if you're like this, because this is a woman who never shared any of her photography work for her whole life. It wasn't discovered until after she died in an estate sale, most of it. And then it was discovered that she was this brilliant street photographer who never shared any of her work. She did it for the pure joy of photography and for herself, which is amazing and incredible. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But what I will say about photographing for yourself is that Vivian Maier, even though she photographed for herself, she was brilliant. She was very good at it. And we can push ourselves to better heights. And also I've noticed that when I do share something I'm proud of and that others react the way that I hope that they will, or have some sort of emotional response, it creates a dialogue where I improve my work. And so I want to show you my own Instagram, and I want to be careful, not because, or Danae and I's Instagram, I don't share it because I think we're at the same level as some of these other photographers. I do think we're decent photographers. I wouldn't teach it if I didn't think I was pretty good at it. Got a long way to go, but for me, we have an interesting challenge where I want to take good enough photography of my children, because those are my main subjects, that not only is it meaningful to me, but it's meaningful for other people as well. That basically someone who does not know my daughter can look at a photo like this and smile, or this one, and get a little bit of a giggle. If you don't find that somewhat entertaining, I would be surprised, right? There's joy in that. I mean, here, capturing that moment where my son sticks water bottles in his shoes because he doesn't want to carry them on a hike. We can all identify with these sorts of things from our own childhood. And so for me, that's what I'm trying to get. I don't want my Instagram feed to look like a snapshot page of just snapshots that I just caught, or posed looks where I'm asking my kids to look at the camera and smile constantly in front of cool and interesting buildings on our travels. Like, to me, that has zero interest, and it's not interesting to anyone but me, right? And because it's not interesting to anyone but me, it's less interesting to myself. But what I do produce work like this that instills some sort of emotional value for someone else, that also, I realize, creates more value to me. And when I look back and compare photos that are snapshotty, that have little meaning because I arranged the scene and asked for a smile, as opposed to something in the act, like pure joy that I was able to capture, or creativity from a child that we can identify with, to me, that's a memory much more worth keeping and referring back to. And so that is the challenge that I've given myself as a photographer, as a documentarian, and that's that. I'm not necessarily saying you need to do that. I'm only giving you an example of why photographing for ourselves still needs to be pushed. We should still push ourselves. So how do we do that, and how do we balance that? I don't want to bring judgment into the act of photography, but I also don't want to be too lazy and too lax and say, well, screw it, I'm just going to use my phone and I'm not going to think about it because it's too intimidating, and I have enough anxiety in my life to have that kind of pressure. How do we balance that? And the way to balance that is what writers do, or what editors will say. And I don't know who said this originally, but it's something that writers will say. They say, write with abandon, edit mercilessly. And they do this to specifically avoid that paralysis of analysis that can happen when you're writing and you're judging your own writing as you go, which can be devastating to creativity, to getting anything done. So write with joy, passion, and I would say the same thing applies to photography. Photograph whatever, emotionally, whatever you respond to. If there's something there and you're not sure what, take photos, suss it out. Take lots of photos. Take as many as you want. There's no reason why we can't take as many as we want, because we have unlimited memory, theoretically. And so, but where the judgment comes back is when we're divorced from that. Now we're sitting down on the computer and we're looking back at our work, and we're deciding what work is going to be our keeper work, what we're going to cull and throw away, what is going to be the stuff we print, share on social media, whether we do that or not, what work is presented or kept in a presentational way, even if it is just for ourselves. And that's where the judgment comes in. That's where we take all of these lessons that I just taught you, that's where we apply them, not when we're photographing. So go out on the street and muster up the bravery to photograph someone walking in an interesting way and interesting lighting that maybe they're not doing anything at all interesting, and maybe there's no emotion at all. Take the photo anyway, because in doing so, you're getting better at composition, you're getting better at being bold and not being afraid, and you're improving. And then when you get back to the later, maybe even put some weeks or days, months between you and that photo, and look at it with these heuristics and these lenses and say, is it a good subject? Does it inspire emotion at some level? Do I ask the question, was there something that happened before? What's going to happen after? And if not, that maybe is not a keeper, but that's okay. In doing that, you will find more and more and more keepers, and you'll get better and better and better. And you'll define those rules that we talked about in week 1, the rules that you're going to define for yourself that will help you establish a body of work that you are happy with, that you feel accomplished by. So, photograph with abandon, edit mercilessly. So I hope you guys enjoyed that clip. Remember that if you would like early and ad and interruption-free access to my videos, as well as other perks, come join me on Patreon. But in the meantime, remember to do good with your camera, and we'll talk to you again real soon.